There's almost nothing more enjoyable than looking after your local rivers and natural environments. There are so many connections that we make with the wildlife and the beauty of the nature around us. Preparing your local environments for a safer, healthier spring, summer and beyond. Some of the people, some of the creatures happy that this stuff is all taken out of their beautiful environment, especially these pieces of timber with hundreds of staples all sticking through. 1 hour's work to pull this out and to witness some amazing moments with wildlife. So cleaning up our rivers is a huge task, but many hands make light work. There are millions of us in the UK that would love to see our rivers cleaner. Getting a group together to do a clear up is the way forward, and it's quite feasible that you can clear whole lengths of the rivers across the UK with that safe and considerate effort. So the main advice in this whole film really is not to go in the river, but to stay on the riverbank if they're accessible, easy and safe to do so. And there's so much stuff to clear there that enters the waterways if it's left, so that really does make a difference. Just an old bicycle, pedals, but wrapped up in wipes and ropes and bits and pieces, so better out. Best times to clear is when the water is low and you can see things on the riverbed and take those out easily. When you've got that concern for the microplastics, it's really empowering to know that you can take out something that would effectively become millions of microplastic particles by just clearing out some of the bigger pieces when you see them, before they start to break down and go into the ground or go into the waterways. 20 years ago it was just sitting on the riverbank as a trolley, and there it is now, part of the river. And really what it's left is an incredibly sharp, dangerous edge down into the ground, and that could have been removed in sort of 20 minutes. Gorgeous bridge and very accessible, easy to get down onto the side, don't need to go in the water. A good 45 minutes work to dig those out with the right instruments. Concerted effort and more than one of you to help drag them out. And one of the greatest joys about clearing along a riverbank is that opportunity to connect with nature, moments that you encounter with creatures. Hello. Birds. Connecting with plants and trees in a late winter or early spring morning, and just doing your bit slowly, carefully. So yeah, nature connection is probably the key. It's the key to it all, really. And if you're getting deeper into the riverbanks and off into nature, the best time for that is January, February, March, early March, before the hogweed comes in and before the bird mating season. Not interfering with the natural habitat of the birds and the waterfowl. So yeah, this is about 30 minutes of clearing just on the riverbank here, where it's safe to do so and in some very shallow water. And yeah, sometimes you find some real treasures. You have to get down to the river before March if there is this hogweed in the areas where you live. giant hogweed generally starts to appear from around mid-March, so avoid going down onto the riverbanks if there is any there. And it's a real problem because it can cause a serious skin reaction. If the sap of the plant gets onto your skin, it can cause burns that could actually even cause long-term injury to the skin. You must really avoid the giant hogweed. And then you can get back to clearing in the autumn and winter. Looking after our rivers ultimately brings us so many benefits, and it's never been more needed than at this time. Anyone who's very familiar with river cleanups will have come across this stuff before. So at first it just looks like more mud and so on, but it's actually hundreds of plastic wet wipes. You could easily walk past it, but actually once you look, there it is. It's clotted together. There's probably a couple of hundred there. Really nasty stuff. But if you are confident at doing clear-ups, then yeah, dragging this stuff out is actually incredibly helpful before it starts to become a putrid build-up. That was quite intense getting all of that out. So yeah, after the rains, the water's half a foot deeper than usual and it's really flowing. And with increased incidence of flooding, it's going to be important to know exactly what's in our rivers. Any hazards and dangerous materials would be better to know and be better to have them out before the waters start rising. So it's an adaptation consideration as well. Once the river levels rise to the point where they're reaching the riverbank, something like this would end up being obscured and covered so you couldn't see it. Tripping over all of this stuff or finding yourself tangled up would be a real challenge. Very, very strong cable. Let's pull that out while we can. That wire is now in a safer place where it will be disposed of properly. The river bank is looking healthy again. It's going to be a lot easier to remove those at this stage while it's shallower. And the lovely thing about river clear-ups, you get to have a really good wash of your hands afterwards, especially when there's a nice flow like this. We want to really make sure our rivers are cleaned up and safe to keep us all in better health and to keep our planet in better health for the future generations. There's certainly a budget to empower your community and clear up local waterways and rivers if you would like to get involved and do that.